I don't know about you warriors, but I am noticing a huge concern right now in the collective with people wanting to know how to reintegrate while everything is reopening in the world. So many people found themselves during the pandemic and they realize what their values truly are. They realize who they are truly in their lives. And now that everything's opening up again, you might start to notice that there are people wanting to gather and get back together, which is all well and good. But you may have realized during this past months or so that maybe that person you don't want to spend time with anymore. Maybe there's certain things that you just don't want to do anymore because they don't fill your cup. So, in today's episode, I really dive into that and give you some tips on how to deal with things opening back up. So, warrior, stay tuned. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I am so happy that you're here. Hello, Empowered Warriors. How are you? I wanted to do this episode today because I am hearing from a lot of you that there is some concern about things opening up and how we are going to navigate to things opening up again and being around people again. And I'm really excited about this topic. As you know, I'm super passionate about talking about self-empowerment and how to maintain peace and well-being no matter what the challenge and no matter what the situation. And I've also mentioned that 2020 and just the pandemic in general, for me personally, has been an incredible period for me to rest and reflect and consider what it is that is important to me and what I can let go of and what no longer serves me. And what I'm hearing from a lot of you is that there's this curiosity and concern about how to reintegrate into society after being kind of on our own in lockdown, maybe hanging out with like a certain group of people or your pod or maybe just your family for the last 15 months or so. And, how to reintegrate and still be at peace and live your life that feels in alignment with your higher purpose. And I know that this is a concern out there. I know that you're thinking about this, warrior, because you've reached out to me, you've told me. I see it on social media. I'm seeing lots of posts about things opening up, and there is an anxiety how to deal with all this. So I thought it was really important to hop on today and talk about this for a little bit. I do not intend for this to be a long episode. But let's see where it takes me, okay? Because I just kind of allow my guides to come in and help me out with these episodes and allow me to talk about what needs to be talked about. so that it can help you, the empowered warriors listening, grow and evolve. When was the last time you saw people in your family? When was the last time you saw your group of friends? When was the last time you sat in a restaurant? Now, I know that the answers are kind of all over the place and across the board based on where you're living and what your beliefs are. And all of that doesn't really matter. But chances are, if you lived during the pandemic, you experienced some kind of change, what you're used to in your lifestyle, whether it be the way you socialize or the way you hang out with people. And for those of you that are feeling maybe a little perplexed and a little stressed about this reintegration process, I want to, first of all, remind you that you're right on track with how you feel, and it's okay to feel this way. And I know that some people are feeling either like, oh, I don't, some people are feeling a sense of they can't wait to see certain people in their lives, while other people are thinking, well, honestly, I don't know that I want to get together with those people anymore or that person anymore because of X, Y, and Z. Because, especially in this community of empowered warriors, I know that you are pretty smart and committed to your personal growth, aren't you? And you want to make choices that are for your highest well being and for the well being of your family and for the well being of society, right? So it's all about really getting in tune with our energy and being in the same vibration as the people that we're spending time with. And what happens, right, when we are hanging out with people that may feel negative or heavy or very fearful, right? Oftentimes it's very, very easy to notice and feel that we suddenly feel down, or we suddenly feel toxic, or we suddenly feel low vibration. And I want to really dive into this and let you know, so that you know that you can still remain authentic to yourself. You can still remain authentic to your Dharma and who you truly are. And you can still be your luminous, most vibrant self. So, how do I navigate through this, Angela? How does this work? I have no idea, because already I'm starting to hear from so and so that she can't wait to hang out with me, and honestly, she's toxic and she brings down my vibe and my energy, and I don't want to hang out with that friend anymore. So what do I do? Well, first of all, I'm just going to give some general feedback and some general ideas with you, for you to work with. And I realize that everybody's situations are going to be different. So I invite you to really listen to these suggestions and carve them out according to what makes sense for you. And just as a reminder, I help people with these kinds of things. I help my clients form healthy boundaries, form healthy relationships simply by stepping into who they truly are, stepping into their higher selves, reclaiming their power, reclaiming their fire, so that it becomes easier and more natural to have healthy responses to these situations when it comes to laying down boundaries. Because you probably have already heard me say before that boundary setting does not have to be angry. Actually, it is best if it's not angry. It's best if boundaries are laid down in love, in calm, and with a sense of love for yourself and love and respect for the other person. Because let's face it, when we set boundaries, it's not only the purest act of self love, but it's also showing love for the other person. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, well, if I set this boundary, then this person is going to be mad at me. This person is not going to want to hang out with me. This person is going to spread rumors about me, or talk negatively about me behind my back because I set this boundary. And I want to remind you that when you set a boundary with another person and they respond in a way that shows that they're not happy with you, just a reminder, just a loving reminder that this has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and their personal growth. Because In general, people do not like change. People do not like change, and they really feel most comfortable. They feel most safe. They feel less in danger. And this goes back to our biology and who we are, and always trying to stay, quote unquote, good with our tribe so that we don't get ousted from the tribe and die. We tend to please people so that we can stay in the tribe. But as you probably already know, it's not necessary anymore to please people to stay in the tribe because there's no danger of falling out of the tribe and dying and starving and everything else. We live in a modern society now, but those habits, that reptilian brain of ours that wants to stay safe, is going to inform us when it comes to, okay, so there's two things going on, right? There's you, who is trying to create better habits by establishing healthy boundaries, and then there's the person on the receiving end of the boundary that is not feeling comfortable but with this boundary because you are challenging their belief system that says that this is the way it is supposed to be. So it is also uncomfortable for them, and if this person has not done a lot of inner work, they're going to react negatively to you. So are you starting to see how their reaction is just a reflection of them and has nothing to do with you? And you are actually doing them a favor, and it is an act of love when you set a boundary with someone. So how can you set these boundaries? One of my coaches says that silence is sometimes the best answer, right? There is nothing more powerful than silence. So if you are hearing from, you're starting to get texts from your friend, and or you're on this group chain of texts, and they want to get together and you're just not feeling it, you're truly, you've done the work, you've sat in quiet reflection, you've journaled, you've done all the things, and you've realized authentically that it makes no sense for you to hang out with this person anymore or these group of people anymore because for whatever reason you don't feel good when you're around them. They're toxic, they gossip, they're negative, they're heavy, they're always in their fear, whatever their reasons. And you're starting to hear from them again. They're texting, they want to get together in person, and you don't want to. There's nothing more powerful than silence. Okay? You may be comfortable with that, you may not be comfortable with that, and that is really something for you to fully consider. Some people might say, well, I agree with silence, but in this particular situation, I really feel that I owe this person an explanation. So if you're not into the silence, then the next thing would be to just set firm but loving boundaries. So, depending on the situation, some of the things you can say is, thank you very much for the invitation, but that is something that I am not comfortable doing right now, or that is something that I don't feel comfortable doing right now, or thank you so much for the invitation, but it doesn't feel in alignment for me to do that right now. You come up with your own language, but it's all about saying, acknowledging the person, thank you so much for the invitation. However, I am going to pass. And you want to make sure that you're really specific in your language, because the last thing you want is for that person to keep coming back and saying, a lot of times it's a much easier response to not be fully honest and say something like, well, maybe next time, right? And then the next time that friend texts, then they'll say something like, well, you said next time you'd be interested in getting together, and so let's get together. And really, that's just basically leading that friend on, right? And not being fully honest. And in the end, it hurts both of you, right? Because you are not stepping into your power by setting that boundary, and that person is just kind of being left in the dust, thinking that they're going to get together with you at some point. So, forming loving and healthy boundaries is so important in the situation. So, and I know that there's a lot of you out there that are thinking about getting back together with your families again, and you're not necessarily sure what that's going to look like or feel like because maybe your mom drives you crazy, or you're going to see your creepy uncle, or whatever it is, and you're not totally looking forward to that. And I'm here to tell you that there are ways to set boundaries so that you are never uncomfortable being in those situations anymore. So I was actually able to practice these boundaries recently when I was around my family and friends, and it worked really, really well. So I'm going to share with you what I did. So what I noticed was when I was in a conversation with somebody that I didn't necessarily, maybe it was not comfortable, and or it felt like it was a violation of my boundaries, or it was just not a conversation I was willing to have anymore. What I did was, the first thing is, it's always super important to maintain your inner peace. So once you start to lose your inner peace, you start to give away your personal power. And boundary setting and self love is all about having personal power. You don't want to give your power away. So when you start to feel angry or frustrated or impatient with a certain social situation that you don't want to be part of, you are essentially giving away your power. And when you are powerless, it becomes harder and harder to set those boundaries so that you are still feeling loving to yourself, loving towards them, or however you want to feel, insert the positive emotion, and you were able to go on with your life feeling at peace and ease because you set boundaries and you are protecting yourself. So what I do is, if I'm in a conversation with somebody, maybe I need to set a boundary, don't want to have the conversation anymore, I want to gracefully end the conversation, I imagine roots literally coming out of the bottoms of my feet and grounding into the earth. I may repeat a certain affirmation to myself, like, I love myself, or I am at peace, I am at joy, I am a bright light, whatever makes sense to you. And you can do this while you're in this social interaction, because the other person doesn't necessarily know that you're doing this. So taking a few deep breaths. You always have your breath. Your breath is there to calm you, and your breath is there to serve you, right? So start taking some really deep breaths through your nose and allow your body to relax. And then that is when the roots come out of the bottoms of my feet and grounding into Mother Earth. Because when you ground into Mother Earth, she is here to support you. She is here to give you all the medicine that you need. And unfortunately, that is a very overlooked concept in our society, that Mother Earth is here for us, right? If you get into animal medicine and you have a certain question, you are always going to get your questions answered by animal medicine. Just taking a few breaths, rooting and grounding into the earth. For me, I just kept saying, I love you to myself. I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. You might want to also invest, if you don't already have, some crystals. Like rose quartz is a really beautiful, gentle crystal that's really great for opening up the heart and for using when you need to practice self-love. So for me in this situation, I had a rose quartz bracelet that I wore around my wrist, and when I was noticing myself feeling impatient, or when I was noticing myself start to feel like I wanted to get out of the conversation, and I wanted to calm myself down first, I got the rose quartz bracelet and I just held it in my hand, and I just said an affirmation that was serving me at that time. So you can go online and do some research on crystals that are really good for setting boundaries, really good for self-love. Like, I really like rose quartz, but really there's a lot of different options. And basically, if you're buying crystals, if you've never bought crystals before, what I recommend is whatever is speaking to you is usually what you need. So if you go into a crystal shop and you see a certain stone that you want, you pick it up and you're like, this is mine. And then you realize the meaning behind it. Oftentimes the medicine is exactly what you need at that time. So the next thing I do is and I didn't do all these at the same time. I did these when I was in different interactions with different people. But another thing that I did was I imagined this bright white light So, if you're able to just take a few deep breaths, which you always can take a few deep breaths, but if you're able to even close your eyes for a few seconds while you're having this interaction, or maybe if you get like 5 second break, and imagine this white, big, bright white light coming in from above, and imagining that this bright white light is your true luminosity, your true being, who is which is there to support you and is always there to support you whenever you need. So I did that a few times, and I do that a lot during my meditation when I feel like I need to establish connection with my higher self, or with it within divine love or God or whatever you want to call it, right? I find that the bright white light really, really helps. And then when you feel grounded, and then when you feel like you're in your inner peace and your power, and only then when you're in your inner peace and your power and you're at a higher vibration, because you never really want to address negative people or people that are draining your energy from a place of low vibration or negativity, because that never really ends well, does it? So then you want to speak your truth. So, for example, you might want to say, thank you for everything that you've said to me today. I really appreciate what you've said. I will consider what you've said, but as of now, I don't want to have this conversation any longer. And you might get some people that feel disappointed, but it's okay. The disappointment for them is their medicine. And if they choose to lean into that disappointment and learn from what that disappointment is teaching them, because really the disappointing, the reaction of disappointing for that person, like I said before, has nothing to do with you, and there's always something that they can learn about themselves. So for many times, disappointment has something to do with attachment, or has something to do with maybe something in their childhood where they didn't feel loved or appreciated, or where they didn't have enough time with their dad or their mom or something like that. And that is really their journey, right? When somebody is disappointed in us, that is their journey. As long as you are always coming from a place of love, and you're coming from a place of higher vibration and a place of abundance, when you set loving boundaries and you are staying in alignment with yourself, you will never be steered wrong. And I know that for many of you, including myself, setting boundaries historically has been very, very hard for me. I invite you to drop the word hard and set intentions that when you set boundaries with yourself, now that you're going to be getting together with your family, or perhaps getting more invites to parties or weddings or whatever it is, that you really lean into your personal power here, that you lean into your self-love here, that you lean into trusting yourself, that you lean into your intuition, that you lean into that inner guidance that is there for you whenever you need it. Because let's face it, warriors, if it was easy, first of all, everyone would be able to do this, and no one would be growing and evolving. We would be here for a different purpose. But knowing that our purpose, that we are here to grow and evolve and ascend and go next level, however you want to look at it. You want a better life. You want a life with no drama. You want a life with no more depression, no anxiety, no more difficult emotions, right? No more difficult relationships. In order to do that, you need to lean into having these uncomfortable interactions with people, and know that even though I just used the word uncomfortable, that uncomfortable is a choice, because you can always choose ease. You can always decide that the boundary that you're going to set with somebody is going to be easy and loving. And when you come from a place with love, very, very seldom are people going to retaliate. And if they retaliate, it's on them. It's on them. So, warriors, I hope you found this helpful. I really feel passionate about this subject. And please, if you are struggling with re entering the world, with things opening up again, and you're really committed to preserving your personal power, your integrity, your self love, all the things that you worked on throughout the pandemic, or maybe you're just getting started and you're feeling a little anxious about getting together with people again. Get in touch with me. This is how I help people. And here's the thing, warriors. I talk to a lot of people, and the conversation oftentimes with coaching is, well, like, I can talk to my friends, or I can go and work on this on my own. And while that is true, I invite you to consider, if you are saying things like that, I can work on this on my own, I can talk to my friends, what is the true belief behind you not investing in yourself? And it doesn't have to be me, it can be somebody else, okay? Somebody that's going to help you. What is behind that? Because oftentimes when I talk to people, and even when I coach people, and they are having a really strong limiting belief around doing something really good for themselves, it often comes down to a lack of self-worth and a lack of feeling that they deserve this. It's not a matter of things being too expensive. I realize that for some people that might be an actual concern. But for many people who I talk to, they know coming into these conversations that coaching is an investment. And what is causing you to put yourself off for another year because you say it's too expensive or you're not worth it? When you really go in deep, you realize that it comes from a place of not deserving or not being worthy. Because really, when you boil down all of the limiting beliefs, if you were to take a million limiting beliefs of all the people in the world, and you boil it down and you keep asking the questions, what is causing me to have this belief? And then you boil it down some more, and you boil it down some more, and you boil it down some more. It always comes down to these two things. I am not good enough, and I am not loved. And that's it. That's it. And those all come from a lack of self-worth. Self-worth is like your foundational, would you buy a house without a foundation? Would you walk into a building that has a shaky foundation? Would you go into a major business relationship with somebody where you don't really fully know, like, and trust them? That's foundation. The successful people that I work with and the successful people that I spend my time with, they know the value of investing. So there you go. That's my soapbox about investing and believing in yourself and loving and worthing yourself. And warriors, I really hope that this episode today really gives you some insight about the whole re-entering and the whole reintegrating. And know that if you're feeling anxious and if you're feeling concerned about this, that it's totally normal. And when you have anxiety and when you feel worry or concern and our emotions, it's always an invitation to look into that further and figure out what it's telling you. Because these things don't just come out of the blue. Anxiety just doesn't, it's not just something that comes out of the blue. When I had my acupuncture practice, 60 to 70% of my patients were anxious. And it was oftentimes so debilitating for these people, and it ruled their lives. And I'm not saying that dealing with anxiety is not a real thing, because it is a real thing, but oftentimes anxiety is just an invitation coming from your subconscious, coming from your heart, coming because your body is so wise and always gives you the medicine that you need. It's an invitation to go deeper and learn more about yourself, isn't it? Or if you're out of alignment and you're doing something that is no longer serving you, you've been in the wrong relationship for too many years and you're feeling anxious. I remember I had this patient. She was usually a pretty calm, chill person, but she started to come in saying, I'm just anxious all the time. I'm just anxious all the time. I have all this anxiety and I don't know why. And then, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, she came in, she was a totally different person. And she's like, guess what? I left my husband. So that anxiety was allowing her to look within herself and realize that the marriage that she was in was not the right marriage. So there you have it, warriors. Lots to think about. Lots to think about. And I'm really excited for you and for your personal growth in 2021. And if you found value in this episode, please share this with your friends and your family. Share this with your coworkers. Share this with your entrepreneurial friends, because the world needs empowered warriors right now. The world needs you right now. The world needs you in your most highest authentic self. And until next time, warriors, take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.